as we stare into the face of our own extinction.
When it comes to first-person shooters, id Software can do no wrong. From Wolfenstein back in 1992 to their most recent release of Doom Eternal back in 2020. 30 years of the most kick-ass first-person shooters. So when we heard that id Software was working on a new FPS IP using their newest id Tech 5 engine, we were right to be excited. Rage was made as more of a test run for the not yet released Doom 2016. A working demo, if you will, for their newest id Tech 5. In fact, if you look at one of their first concept trailers for what was called Doom 4 at the time, you can see similarities to what Rage became. This of course never panned out, and IDsoft eventually worked on a newer engine for Doom 2016. Finally, Rage was released, going against some pretty rough competition at the time, such as Uncharted 3, Batman Arkham City, and Skyrim. Was Rage angsty enough to stand up to such titans? Well, jumpstart your heart with some nanite defibrillators and let's get ragey. So the game starts off with a recap of the end of the world. A giant meteor had crashed into Earth in the year 2029 and pretty much wiped out the face of humanity. A special project known as the Eden Project created special fallout shelters known as ARCs, which housed special individuals, each one with a specific skill or talent to help rebuild society. The protagonist of the game is one such character with his special skill or talent being the fact that he has nanites in his bloodstream, which help him regenerate health and even bring himself back from the dead via a defib minigame. Though, be careful, since cryosleep has weakened his knees to the point of instant death when sprinting downstairs or jumping while on an elevator.
Whoa! I killed myself by jumping while on an elevator. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. But it did. What the fuck?
The nameless protagonist, who I actually found out while doing research for this game, is named Nicholas Rain, though the game never mentions his name at all. Wakes up as the sole survivor of his ARC. He escapes only to get ambushed by some strange-looking survivors. He immediately gets saved by John Goodman, which is the best character in the game, by the way.
Hey, you! Over here!
Is that John Goodman?
It ain't safe here. Get in.
And begins working on a deal with him. The deal is for you to do little favors for him and everyone else who asks until you beat the game. Yes, folks, this is a fetch quest type of game, and it never becomes anything more. After helping Goodman with menial tasks, you finally go to the first hub location in the game, a city called Wellspring, which is brimming with NPCs to talk to, side quests to take on, and racing minigames to complete. Okay, actually I lied. There are only a small amount of people, maybe 3, who give you quests, and they aren't side quests. They are the only quests. The racing minigame is necessary to complete 3 separate times to continue the plot. Once you errand boy for everyone you can, and saving a new character, you're then rushed to a new location where you have to search for pieces of a machine to track down the remaining ARCs that an evil faction known as the Authority are hiding. Once you find all the pieces, one of the Resistance companions build a machine to reveal the location of the ARCs, and
The game's killing me! Bleh! I turn on a satellite! Focus. I turn on a satellite. Is it gonna, like, start up a nuke or something? You know, what's happened? What's been done? Okay, a bunch of arcs. Cool. Something's happening, right? Ow. Something's happened. What happened? Fucking nothing!
That's where the game ends. Now, normally find the MacGuffin to progress the story is pretty general and can be done very well, but in the case of Rage, you're not looking for the pieces of this machine from the get-go. No, you get introduced to the concept of finding the arcs towards the end of the game. The story really doesn't begin until you meet John Marshall, which, again, doesn't happen until a good chunk of the game has been completed. Even the ending is so anticlimactic, I couldn't spoil anything even if I wanted to. It reminds me of when I first played this game when it came out. Being a Doom fan since I was a little children, I was so incredibly excited to see what Rage could bring me. Then, when the credits began to roll, I had thought I accidentally skipped the ending cutscene. So I redid the final mission over and had the same outcome. That was when I realized the story in this game sucks. The gameplay of Rage is broken up into two categories: shooting and driving. The shooting, as is id's specialty, feels good and punchy, and the gore is a sight to see. The driving, on the other hand, is serviceable, but so shallow and just boring. There are 4 vehicles in the game, and apart from the ATV, they all feel like they handle the exact same way, despite purchasing upgrades to tune your vehicles up. But before I get into the bland tire fire that is driving, let's talk about the shooting, shall we? Sergeant Nicholas Angel begins with nothing more than a pistol, and eventually finds your usual affair of popular FPS weapons, such as an assault rifle, similar to an AK, a shotgun, a crossbow, sniper, another assault rifle, a rocket launcher, and of course a BFG, which I refuse to acknowledge as a BFG. It may be big, it may be a gun, but it damn sure is no fucking gun. A neat mechanic for these weapons is that each weapon has different ammo types they can swap out to. The pistol has standard pistol rounds, heavier rounds called Fat Boys, Kill Bursts, which turn the pistol into an automatic weapon, and Fat Mamas, a stronger version of Fat Boys. The shotgun gets shock rounds and pop rocks, mini explosives that can be used to damage multiple enemies.
My favorite.
Majority of these ammunition types are just additional damage changes instead of actually doing something interesting with them, or giving you additional enemy types that require certain ammo types. You can get heat-seeking rockets for the rocket launcher, but you don't deal with any flying enemies or vehicles that require the need. The crossbow is actually the only weapon with a gimmick-type ammo. Mind control darts. Control your enemy and force them to walk into a group of enemies, then make them self-destruct. The concept sounds good on paper, but in action it's just...
Whoa. And what purpose does this do? I can detonate him? What purpose was that? To hug. Did that work effectively? Did it?
There he is!
No, it didn't. Fucking Jesus.
Apart from the main weapons, Nicholas is treated to some unique goodies such as grenades, throwable knifey boomerangs, RC bomb cars, and EMP grenades. The boomerangs, known as wing sticks, can be pretty satisfying to launch at an enemy, as their death animations and ragdolls are pretty fun to watch. Now, the game has certain missions where you need to use select side weapons to solve puzzles. In one mission, you use an RC bomb to traverse through vents and explode barrels to progress. In another mission, you need to use EMP grenades to disable power generators to progress. In a third mission, you have to use electrobolts fired from the crossbow to disable traps to progress. And that's it. You never need to use them for their intended purposes ever again. It really feels like there was a more grand vision intended with a much more fleshed out world and mechanics that never came to fruition. You can scavenge to find items that you can use to create side weapons that you learn how to make from blueprints.
You go look.
Don't point that fucking vibrator hand at me.
Trace of him, I'll reward you with my own recipe for making healing bandages.
I'm guessing it's cloth and alcohol, right? Yep.
And here is what you need, as well as the plans to make your
I
own
swear to
healing
God. Cloth. Antiseptic.
And the rest you use to sell and make money, which you can use to purchase ammo and occasional gear. Thing is, you will find heaps of ammo from enemies and ammo that's scattered around, that purchasing ammo is pointless unless it's special ammo that you can't find out in the wild, which actually becomes necessary as the endgame enemies become bullet-spongy messes, which makes any and all firefights an absolute slog, requiring you to need the best ammo you can buy. Now's a good time to talk about the enemies. There are 3 main enemy factions: the mutants, the bandits, and the authority. The mutants are agile melee fighters that close the gap between themselves and the player with nimble and agile flips and climbing on walls, usually leading to a pretty tense moment depending on the location you're in. For instance, in an open environment they can climb the walls and climb over railings, swarming in droves to kill you from all directions. But when faced in a more narrow or focused location, they become nothing more than target practice. The way they flip around and appear so menacing only to instantly be taken out by a headshot reminds me of the scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indy shoots the guy with the sword. This leads us to the bandits. Their main gimmick is that they shoot at you. The enemy AI is actually so embarrassing. They don't effectively hide behind cover, they don't try to flank you or flush you out of cover. Very rarely they might throw a grenade at you, but that's about it. I honestly cannot remember anything special that they do other than point and shoot.
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Really? This is the AI that I gotta deal with. This is the AI.
He's taking us all out! No way! This is crazy! Oh,
It would me.
on the right!
Is he gonna do it again? Nope.
The enemies may use different weapons, but nothing about them physically stands out to show what their specialty is. Shotgunners look like the guys with assault rifles. The authority is pretty much the same with 2 big differences. There are a shield variant, which you finally need to use your shock weapons or EMP grenades to disable the shield, or you can just shoot at them until their shield breaks. The second difference is all these enemies are heavily armored. The only challenge you have while facing them is wasting so much ammo on single enemies. An interesting point of the game is how they try to introduce newer enemies and hazards towards the end game, but they all feel like last-minute additions. There are technically bosses in the game, special variants of mutants with tentacles or a really massive mutant. The giant mutant is taken out like a traditional Mario boss. Avoid his patterns and shoot him 3 times in the same spot to win. Every other variant is just fill them with lead until they can start a pencil factory in hell. Now, I must mention it before we move on to the driving segment of the video. The BFG. In all honesty, it is a very effective gun, but it's just a Gatling gun that uses plasma rounds. It shoots very fast and very hard. It is perhaps the most useful gun in the game, and they give it to you at the last 15 minutes of the game. The BFG is supposed to be an overly powerful weapon, finally giving the player an opportunity to fight back against the ever-increasing hordes of enemies when things are dire. How do they do this without giving the player too much power? They limit how much ammo they give you, so you, the player, have to be smart and save it for when you really need it. Don't tease players with it by giving it to them at the end of the game, and then making the game end with no continuation after the credits. That's right, you heard that correctly. A semi-open world game filled with side quests and races and collectibles that end as soon as the credits are open. And I know you might be saying, but if you get the Scorchers DLC you can continue, and this is true. But after what I experienced during my playthrough for this review, I don't want to dish out $10 for what should already be in the game. The shooting of Rage is fun, and the game is fun when it lets you shoot things. You see, in between the shooting is a lot of unskippable dialogue, driving through nearly barren wastelands with literally nothing interesting to look at apart from some old ruins and rocks, and the occasional enemy vehicle you have to destroy. Constantly running back and forth over and over and over with no depth in any of the quests, and being forced to do racing missions to progress further. And now, we're really in the shit.
Woo! We gonna get the shit now. More ring around the rosies, huh? Oh yeah, the doo-doo. Simplify his ass. The poopy pop. We gonna get the shit.
Driving is a core part of Rage. There are 3 cars you can get on top of owning an ATV.
Okay, never mind. There we go.
And other than the amount of damage they can take, they feel no different from each other. You can compete in races and earn racing certificates, which you can use to upgrade your vehicle with more armor, a better engine, longer boosts, spiked tires for performance, and a battering ram. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You can only do that for one of the cars, the second car that you get. For the others, you can get a longer boost upgrade, spiked tires, and car paint. There's absolutely no depth to vehicle customization in Rage. The races themselves are bland and just feel tacked on at the last minute. The driving is as deep as Mario Kart, yet still Mario Kart feels so much better.
Here we go!
When Rage treats itself like an FPS, it stands out and is fun to play. But when they start trying to make it modern for the newer generation of gamers by adding regenerating health, make enemies artificially harder by giving them more shields, they don't attract new or old gamers. In Doom, as you neared the end of the game, and the game began getting harder and harder, it wasn't because the imps were now wearing special power armor that enhanced their fireballs. No, the game just threw a fuck ton more at you along with every other interesting and unique enemy they had created. Oh, and that comment about imps wearing power armor? Yeah, well they make the mutants wear power armor towards the end of Rage to make them more difficult as well. Fuck's sake. Now, before we continue, I want to thank all of you for stopping by and for watching my video. Please leave a like or a comment, as they really do help me out. Tell me games that you'd like to see on this channel, or what you think of this game. Please feel free to subscribe for more review and gaming videos, and you can also join me and help me review these games by chatting with me on Twitch at KenchonNoodle. Alright, moving on. Voice acting is important, especially in a game where there's a lot of big sounding dialogue to try to force exposition down the player's throat to make it feel like what you're doing is important. Is the dialogue delivered to you successful in making the story rich, deep, and engaging?
You have made one great find.
Did I?
It shows us all about the authorities' deadly plans.
It does?
Trust me, this is a major blow to them.
It is?
And a great day for our cause.
Absolutely not. It is delivered very well, though, if that's any consolation. The reason for this is that the game does have a very good cast of characters. A few of them which caught me off guard during my playthrough.
Hold on, somebody's... What work?
Listen up. My business partner, a guy named Diedrich, he needs some help.
Are you
He's
Badger?
looking for someone who's good with a gun. If you're interested, go see him. He's behind Janie's Supplies.
Is that Badger from Breaking Bad?
Hey, you! Over here!
Is that John Goodman? John Goodman, is that you?
It ain't safe here. Get in.
Follow me. I know what to do. We can blow our way out of here through the courtyard.
That is Steve Bloom, isn't it?
This way.
Yeah, because it sounds like Wolverine.
The game also features the voice talents of Brian Bloom, Tara Strong, Claudia Black, and Phil Lamar. Hearing the voice actors in this game read their lines is like listening to John St. John reading 50 Shades of Grey.
He holds out his hand, and in his palm are 2 shiny silver balls linked with a thick black thread.
The source material is still shit, but it is great listening to the ones reading the lines. The music, on the other hand, I couldn't tell you. You see, when I write my reviews, I listen to the OST of the games I'm going to review, so I can focus on the music and appreciate it by itself. And the only tracks that were interesting is the like 20-second stingers you get when you're introduced to a new location. And my most favorite track is the intro track. Some of the songs aren't even spliced together correctly, and you can hear as the music goes to a sudden stop, then begins again from the start. It's jarring and distracting.
I'll take money. Take money every day, any day. Did this song just loop? Did it like cut itself and then loop? That was a terrible loop.
The guns all sound appropriate, but nothing stands out as mind-blowing. In fact, not much really does. The creature sounds, the dialogue from the soldiers, it's all generic and decent for the most part. In its defense, however, I guess there's nothing bad to say about it, so that's still a good thing. The id Tech 5 engine looks pretty damn good, even 12 years later. If Rage has any strengths, it is the visuals. Each location has great design and even a good layout, which always helps the player feel like they're moving forward, even when you're moving backwards. Yep, in order to pad out this game, they just make you do the same mission backwards. Maybe they thought their level design was so good, we players would want to see it all over again. The NPC character animation has all been done and crafted in the game engine, but done with unique movements and mocap for each conversation they have, really making you feel like you're interacting with a cutscene and not just watching a character model go through the same 3 movements over and over again. The strangest visual issue I had with the whole game is the subtitles. I'll let myself explain.
And are using them to control mutants, changing them into something far worse than they are now.
The subtitles are broken.
They figured out a way to use them as weapons.
They are overlapping each other. Honestly, what? How do you not? How?
That data.
As I mentioned earlier, I think the best thing in this entire game is the ragdolls.
Save you! Surprise attack, bitch! Of this guy is way too floaty.
Let's get out there.
Can I just have his shotgun? Oh god damn it, that's stupid. I'm seeing the gun that you got ain't doing that good. How many fucking pirouettes are you gonna do, bro?
I cannot get over how hilarious and over the top the deaths are. The bad news is, all the enemy designs look the same. Nobody stands out as anything fun or unique except for the bosses, but that's kind of a given. All the mutants look exactly the same, with the only difference on them being the color of war paint on their bodies. The bandits I don't even remember, and the authority just look like the Hellgast from Killzone. Apart from the visuals though, not much is really saving this game. I'm not sure if it's an unfair bias towards IDsoft, but when Rage was first announced, we expected something amazing again. I was thinking before that maybe a lot of the gripes I had in this game were just because I was disappointed, as I expected something more in this game. And for my playthrough this time, I went in with no expectations unless it's expecting a bad game. And for the most part, my expectations were right. The only time Rage is a good and fun shooter is when they let you shoot, run and gun, and massacre enemies. It is a rollicking good time. But the game loses itself once you get to the first hub world and it becomes just another generic shooter trying to copy the likes of Fallout or Borderlands. This is a perfect case of they were too busy thinking whether or not they could without thinking whether they should. I don't think Rage is a bad game. A lot of the gripes are nothing more than nitpicks, and if you're looking for a fun and decently length shooter with some driving elements and don't care at all about the story, then you'll find yourself actually having some fun, as I occasionally did myself. Overall, I give Rage 3 fat mamas out of 5. A mediocre game. It has good elements, but they were trying too much to be something that they weren't. When id realized what they already were was something amazing, they went back to that. So luckily, we got some Wolfenstein, we got more Doom, and I'm excited to see more of what id has to offer. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please remember, leave a like if you'd like. Please comment down below games you'd like to see on this channel or what you think of the game itself. Again, subscribing always helps me out. This year we're working on a lot of my favorite games, which is pretty much everything from id. So I hope to see you guys through this whole journey, and until the next video, I will see all of you guys on the other side. Bye bye.